Welcome to the Ichi podcast. My name is NW Epic, and I am joined by my co-host Nan Mana, where we like to discuss anime, gaming, and whatever we sort of feel like talking about. So this is actually a pretty unique scenario because we're actually just running it back. We had originally recorded this podcast, but unfortunately, some of the files got corrupted. So instead of just doing my usual thing and ghosting for about 5 months, I was like, hey, let's hop back on. Let's go ahead and knock this back out. So we're gonna run this back. But the fun part about this is that there was some updates just right after the podcast and some things that we remembered that we forgot to talk about. So kind of exciting. We can touch upon some of the things we already covered in that lost episode while also adding some new information. But before we truly begin, I did want to mention that the website is currently going through an update. It's been, well, you reminded me that we started this podcast technically in 2020, which is insane.
Yeah, 5 years.
Incredibly insane. 5 years. Ichi niche as a concept did not exist at that time. Probably existed closer to 2022. But it's just kind of crazy to think it's been 5 years, and in that same space with Ichi as well, it's just kind of crazy to think sort of the growth of myself, my skill set. Like I was telling you separately in the chat, I think yesterday or the day before that, I really like fandom. I really love fandom. I love the fans, and we'll go into some specific fandoms here later in the podcast, but I just really love, being a fan of anime and interacting with, all of these different products, series, communities, all of these different things. And Ichi Niche is sort of my little personal outlet to do that. And so I get to utilize both the, I guess, development skills that I'm learning both on and off the job and intersect, just my love for all of these things for hobbyist taste. So yeah, the site's being updated. I'm transitioning the database to a new one. I'm adding some new features. Definitely looks nicer. Feels nicer in some areas, although Chrome doesn't seem to like it a little bit. And also doing some fun things with the site as well, both for personal and for broad consumption as well. One of the funny things, or let me back up. One of the cool things is when I'm going back through the database, since they're both entirely different structures, I had to build a unique tool to kind of help facilitate the manual process so it wouldn't take 12 years. And thankfully that's been going incredibly well, but it's kind of awesome to go back through the database one by one because I get to revisit titles that I, may have forgotten about. And I think that's one of the core facets of the site is to kind of have this record of things I've consumed, things I've watched, things I've played. I mean, there's just obscure stuff like Melty Lancer that has come through my pipeline that most of you have probably never heard of. But it's, really cool shows like that, things that, I may have watched and then may never watch again or, may want to watch again. Carried by the Wind, Tsukikage Ran is another one that's pretty awesome. And these titles even exist on, the streaming platforms, not just Crunchyroll, but like your Plutos, your Tubi, your Roku TVs, things of that nature. So yeah, it's just been excellent. It also reminds me that my backlog is never ending. So I have a lot of stuff to catch up on and a lot of stuff to rewatch. Yeah, that was just a brief overview of the site, but let's transition into content. Let's just go ahead and talk about tokusatsu. So when we originally recorded, this was actually just kind of off the cuff, but we just had a moment of nerding out about tokusatsu and why it's so great. It spawned from basically Kamen Rider and the fact that, honestly, Kamen Rider has better looking suits in the modern era, or rather, Kamen Rider overall as a series has much better suit design than Super Sentai. I think you stated the only blight in its history is X-Aid, and that's the one. He's got like the little hair swoop, pink hair
the gamer
swoop,
writer.
But yeah, other than that, like just pretty solid. And obviously, we're not talking about the content of each of these series, so that's not to say the Super Sentai is bad. It's just that the suit design has kind of been eh. And I also chalked it up maybe to like nostalgia and bias. I grew up in an era where, just to give you the Power Ranger equivalents, Time Force, Lightspeed Rescue, Lost Galaxy, those were the primary suits, right? So those types of suits were what I grew up on, and I feel like all of those are awesome iterations. They can feel a little samey thinking on them, but honestly, the way that they just altered all of those suit designs from like the period of Die Ranger to what would I put it? The 25th anniversary was Gal Ranger. So yeah, like, kind of that period of like Die Ranger to Gal Ranger. Is it Gal Ranger? Is it Gal? It is Gal Ranger, right? We'll just say Wild Force. Make it easy.
I mean,
that
Gal
period.
Is what, the roaring
those were some cool
Matapia?
suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gal. Yeah, Gal. Yeah. I love that song too. I love the opening for that. But yeah, one of the reasons I wanted to bring that back up though is because right after we recorded that podcast, I forgot that Discotek was having one of their live streams to announce some of their titles that they will be releasing. This is in correlation with their Otakon panel that they have. So they started doing both a digital panel and a live panel. And most of the time, the digital panel actually has a lot more content than the live panel. But obviously, there's the perk of being there live, getting to maybe buy some of their, rare titles from the store. And I was so excited to just kind of drop in and watch because I always love what Discotek is putting out. And how about they announced not one, but 2 releases of Kamen Rider titles? I was so excited. So excited. So the first one that they dropped was Kamen Rider Amazon. And this one's kind of a unique one because the best way you could describe Kamen Rider Amazon is like a fusion between Kamen Rider and Tarzan. But it's really cool. It actually, now that I think about Kamen Rider Amazon, I feel like there was a Netflix Kamen Rider. I don't think it's a sequel to Amazon, but it's kind of got a similar setting. Although the Amazon, did I say Netflix?
Yeah.
No, I said Amazon. Yeah. It's an Amazon title. But the one on Amazon is a lot more dark, obviously. Because, people in the West like darker things, but, anyways, Kamen Rider Amazon was a cool one to see, and I thought that was just going to be the end of it, but no. They also announced that they're releasing Kamen Rider Stronger.
Oh.
They are releasing Kamen Rider Stronger, and I'm a lot more excited for that one than Amazon. I'm sorry, Amazon, but when they announced that, obviously the meme came to life.
Kamen Rider Stronger. 彼が stronger なら俺は strongest というところか。
It's probably not the first time I've played that clip in the podcast, now that I'm thinking about it, but it won't be the last either. So that was pretty cool to see. And I think that also organically lets me transition into some of the other titles that they announced, because they had a pretty good slew of titles just to go around. So they actually announced that they're going to be releasing the original English series of Shin-Chan. It is a very, very different series than the actual Shin-Chan. But it was just kind of insane to see it unlocked like a repressed memory of randomly watching Adult Swim when I probably shouldn't have been, and just the zaniness of what this dub was. And obviously being a lot older, it makes a lot more sense to me now. But I remember back then just being so confused. I don't know. A lot of stuff from when I was younger that used to come on Adult Swim, it kind of feels like a fever dream. It's kind of interesting to think back on those days. But yeah, we're getting that. Another notable release is they're putting out the Zone of the Enders Gosh, I'm having a hard time with these names. It's not Idolo, is it? It's Idolo. Anyways, there's only the Enders OVA, so they're packaging all of the OVA releases into one release, and they're re-releasing that on Blu-ray. That's definitely one to look out for. I actually do own that on DVD, but it would be nice to get the updated Blu-ray at another point. They're releasing Zegapan, which is a more niche title, but that one looks very interesting as well. And they also announced that they're also packaging the brand new film that just recently released in 2024 with it. So it is the complete Zegapan collection. So that'll be super awesome. They're releasing the rest of the Digimon movies, so 4 through 6. And I think probably the biggest, well, no, this is not the biggest announcement. But for most people, the biggest announcement is that they're going to be releasing Naoki Urasawa's Monster. And if you don't know what Monster is, I feel like we should talk about that more in depth. Do you even know what Monster is? Now that I'm just yapping at the moment.
I've heard of it.
Okay. Monster is that show. Probably lauded, at least if you're like an old school otaku. Like one of the best series ever made. Monster is it. And so I think it's a title that people have been wanting re-released for a very, very, very long time. And it is back. All 74 episodes in HD. We'll finally get this series in home media on Blu-ray. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait for it. Now, that would probably be the biggest announcement from all of these. But no, the biggest announcement is we're getting Golden Boy on Blu-ray. They're re-releasing it. It's back in print. It's going to look amazing. It's going to be an amazing show. Golden Boy is one of those treats that I feel like everybody who loves anime should at least watch once in their life. It is just an incredible show. And so I'm super happy that they're putting this back in print. So overall, and I skipped a few things just for brevity, but they had a pretty fantastic slate of titles that they announced for release. And so it's just super exciting to see them always putting out more. Very engaged with the community. Just, you know, I feel like Discotek is one of those last bastions for the anime community that's just not corporately, I don't know the best way to put it, but it's just a great entity in a more corporate society. That's the best way I can put that. But yeah, that's Tokusatsu and Discotek. Moving on, Switch 2. So we touched on Switch 2 the last time. Well, technically in our release podcast and the Lost podcast, but we're going to talk about it for a little bit. Tell me, how are you feeling 2 months in? Because it's probably actually 2 months now. Tell me how you're feeling 2 months in, being a Switch 2 owner. How it feels, how it plays. If you're excited, if you're like, eh.
I mean, yeah, like I've said before, it's a solid piece of hardware. Like some critics will complain about the display, which is fair, but it's a very nice upgrade. Like this system was built for you, basically. But in terms of using it, like I would love to use it more, but I just don't have the titles or games to pick it up every now and then. Like Mario Kart has had its controversial series of patches with the amount of 3-lap tracks in the multiplayer. I haven't picked up any other of the new titles like Donkey Kong Bonanza. It looks okay, but it's not something I'm really wanting to go out and buy right now. I did see some storefronts had Super Mario Bros. Wonder for $40, so considering picking that up. But yeah,
you should. You should. Mario Wonder is a wonder. It's actually, funnily enough, and maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but I feel like Mario Wonder kind of came and went for me, whereas most Mario titles, like, they sit with me for a while. And maybe this is not the best advertising, but it's not that it's forgettable. It's just that, like, I played it, and then I played it. I 100% it, and it was pretty challenging. It's definitely the best 2D Mario has been if you want to count the original Mario Maker on Wii U, since Mario Maker on Wii U, but if you don't want to count that, it's the best that it's been since. I'm trying to think, because technically the land and world titles are kind of in that weird space of 2D and 3D, and I would say maybe those, but we'll say those, right? It's the best that it's been in a very, very long time. And I think, yeah, if you're willing to go get it and you need some Switch titles, that's definitely one to pick up. Or you could just pick up Donkey Kong. Or you could just pick up Donkey Kong.
$70, man.
It's worth it.
I would rather pay the 60 for the premium new Katamari game, the deluxe version of that, with all the soundtracks and everything.
Just both, man. Just do both.
I could get both.
Just blow that cash. Speaking of blowing cash.
Speaking of that,
it could be.
What was that? Go
ahead.
I was gonna say that indie direct that happened a few days ago, probably the most disappointing. I want to say. It only had 15 minutes.
But again, I think those indie directs are very specific for people who really enjoy indie titles. I mean, I want you to think back on any of the indie directs, and was there ever any time that they impressed you, or there was maybe more than one title that you were interested in them?
No.
Yep. See? so they're not really for like a you and me. Which again, I'll watch them, but I'm never really looking forward to the indie, and that's no shade to the indie developers or their games and things like that. And there's sometimes that there are games that are cool, like last time I mentioned. I still forget the name. I had a second try at it, and I'm still forgetting the name. But the Raccoon Sheep game,
yeah, Ultimate Raccoon Sheep.
Yeah,
I think
Ultimate Raccoon Sheep. That one looked good. UFO 50 or 50 UFO, whichever way that goes. That one looked pretty good. And then there was also a Playism title that looked good. Oh, go ahead.
No, I did. Also, I recognized one of the titles as the Opus series. They had a decent mobile games back in the day, maybe like 10 years ago or so. But they've eventually increased their production and moved to PC and console. But still, it's not. Doesn't look like something I just. Oh man, this looks really cool that I really want to get.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's most people. I was very surprised to see that there was almost a million. It's probably a million now at this point, but there was almost a million for the indie directs because, again, maybe it's just the internal bias of like, I'm not interested, so I assume others are not. But no, I think people genuinely are looking forward to the indie titles, and good for them. No title looked bad, in my opinion. Just none looked like they are for me for the most part. And that's okay, because I already have 1,000 backlogs for all sorts of different entertainment, so I'm good.
A lot of viewers were expecting something about Silk Song, but...
Silk Song?
I don't know if I would even categorize it as a indie title now. It's just so big, so hyped. It's probably going to get its own direct or in the main direct series.
I guess. I'm honestly like, is Hollow Knight really, like, don't get me wrong, this is probably blasphemous. I'm probably going to have to watch out my windows now, but is Hollow Knight really that good? Obviously it's a great game. Or is it just a meme at this point, I feel like it's got to be both, right? Like, it's the meme now to be like, where's Silk Song? Where's Silk Song? But I'm just like, it's another...
The same thing happened with Deltarune, and then Toby Fox has dropped chapters 3 and 4 announcement on the Switch 2 announcement date.
But I feel like with Undertale and Deltarune and stuff like that, right? Like, obviously, technically, yes, they're kind of similar to the Earthbounds or that sort of niche genre of RPGs, but they're really unique experiences, in my opinion. I'm not saying that Hollow Knight is not a good experience. I just feel like it is fantastic Metroidvania.
I don't know. There's really not a lot I'm looking forward to for the Switch 2 platform, like, except for maybe that the wheelchair basketball game.
We're gonna have to stop calling it the wheelchair basketball game.
It is a wheelchair basketball game. It's like
it's Drag X Drive. That's what it's called. or maybe just drag drive since it's
Yeah,
technically a
some
Japanese
say
title.
some don't say the X, some say X, some say cross.
It could be cross too.
I don't.
They probably said it. I don't remember.
Cross is probably the least common I've heard. Well, not just for this
Yeah.
game, but any other titles with a X in it.
Yeah.
But, I will say the
But
battery
that's
life
also.
is pretty tough. It's just draining itself even on idle.
Jeez. I just realized what you said. It's draining on idle, which, I mean, but it's pretty beefy system. And obviously, I imagine with revisions in the future, they'll fix that. Or maybe they'll just give it a different battery. I don't know.
We have the what's the
Maybe.
Switch One console in price increases. So I think the Switch One is going up to, the OLED's going up to 400. I want to say the OG's going to 350, and the Switch Lite going to what, 280? Is that what you said before?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Switch Lite's
tough.
gone to 235. I believe it was
Okay.
200. Yeah. Which,
Well, let me.
again, like we had
Google these.
discussed. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna just Google these.
Tell you, get the accurate. While you're looking that up, it just feels kind of. The interesting part of this is since the Switch 2 is not going up in price, there's a curiosity if they preset the Switch 2 price ahead of the tariff changes, or if they're eating the cost of what it was supposed to be. Or rather, 450 is what they wanted to set it as, and now they're eating the cost. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, these price increases. I think probably the funniest one to me is the accessories in the Switch Lite. So I don't see any reason why they had to increase the Switch Lite as well. Seeing as how that's supposed to be the cheaper value version anyways.
Yeah, it looks like
And then
the
there's also the
OG's up to 340.
Oof.
Yeah, and the OLED's up to 400.
That's crazy.
So with the
It's like, what do you want? The better system, or you want a better screen?
the base Switch 2 being at 450, it's very hard to choose the OLED over the Switch 2.
Yeah. I'm really curious if Switch 2 is tariff price set. I really am, because I mean, yeah, truthfully, in one hand, obviously this screws over Nintendo a lot, but on the other hand, this could technically be good for conversion rate. I mean, people who may have been on the fence of like, well, the Switch 1 has such a large backlog, blah blah blah.
I don't know anyone that would be
pick up a
considering
Switch.
getting a Switch 1 in 2025 anyway.
I think lots of people would. Before the tariff price change, it's cheaper. It already has an incredibly large backlog. I mean, we have to look at it from, obviously, we're older, but like for children, for teenagers, obviously younger people, maybe college students who don't have that much expendable income, but like might catch Switch 1 on a sale price on like a Black Friday or something like that. Like, there's definitely lots of
I guess
people
there's
still looking at
still
Switch 1.
on the Nintendo Store. There's still OLED bundles out with Mario Bros. Wonder for 350. So those would probably be going out of stock soon if anyone really still wants to look for an OLED.
I wonder if people will start scalping. That's what I'm curious about. Like you said, maybe people see those bundles and like, yeah, I can just resell these for a higher price and make some money. I don't know. Probably not. It's probably not that serious. Hopefully, but if card games have taught me anything, people have lost their mind. But yeah, no, it's just an interesting situation. Obviously, I don't blame Nintendo for this at all. I'm not upset at Nintendo at all, and nobody should be upset at Nintendo at all. Blame your politicians. That's all I have to say. For price increases, not just in your hobbies, but across the board, unilaterally, for all of your expenses. But that's neither here nor there. We had mentioned drag drive, but I did think one thing I wanted to mention on that as well. Two things, actually. There's going to be a demo, online demo, popping up soon, which should be interesting. I'm curious to see, what user feedback is, because it looks both competent, fun, and, or I said both. It looks competent, fun, and janky all at the same time. Super excited for that whenever I do decide to pick up a Switch 2. Um, and then also with that, Nintendo released icons for Drag Drive, which I thought was funny. If you're not familiar with what the icons are, technically for your sort of profile images, you have the presets that are built into the system that you can kind of do basic customizations with for your user profile on the Switch. If you want, unique or different series with different borders, backgrounds, and characters from all different types of series, you have to spend platinum coins in the Nintendo app on the console in order to get those. And they just released a set, or as they call them, wave, for Drag Drive. I went ahead and got those just because I was like, I think this is a one-off. Sometimes they will rerun old icons, but they're technically limited. They're only up for a set period of time, which I don't really understand that concept outside of, I guess, just force turn on your Switch to see what's on there, or be playing the Switch so you can earn your platinum coins or whatever. But I went ahead and got them because I was like, yeah, probably will never have the opportunity to get these again. So if I can get the little goofy basketball icons, why not? But yeah, I don't know. Switch 2 looks pretty strong. I know I was slightly skeptical because of all of the, I guess, complaining on pricing of the various pieces of Switch 2, the games, the accessories, not necessarily the console itself, but somewhat the console itself as well. But it's doing pretty well so far. Nintendo's stock price, or their stock price, or their stock, excuse me, is pretty good at the moment as well. So I don't think there's anything to complain about. I think Nintendo is sitting nice right now. The only time I think I'm going to opt in, excuse me, let me back up there. I probably will get a Switch 2 on maybe two conditions. The first major one is if they kind of reverse how they've implemented these game key cards. For those unaware, game key cards are Switch games that are on a cartridge, but that cartridge really is just a license key. And so when you insert the key card into the Switch console, it'll download the game onto the system, and you'll need the key card in the Switch in order to authenticate the title. And so this is kind of an alternative take on the code in the box that we saw somewhat during Switch 1's lifetime, which I think it is a unique sort of solution to the issue, because there is a degree of, if you don't have that key card, you can't actually play the title. So it is somewhat a physical product that can be resold and traded and loaned and things of that nature. But by that same token, some of that purpose has already been invalidated by what's the name of the system that Nintendo just recently implemented? They're not called game key cards. What's the digital
With the
key card thing?
the family
Mine's
sharing
blanking.
thing?
No. It's the it's like the virtual cards. The virtual cards.
I mean, yeah,
where you can share the.
yeah, that's what they are.
I mean, okay. That's kind of already slightly invalidated a game key card, because now you can just buy your digital games, and I guess you technically need to be. Well, I mean, shoot, if you need to be in physical proximity of somebody to give them a game key card, unless you're going to ship it. So for the digital ones,
I mean, the virtual game cards,
doesn't
you
really
also
matter.
have to be near the other console to share it with them.
Yeah, but it's the same concept and principle. And it also doesn't even fix another issue, which is storage. So obviously, increasingly, this is not just a Nintendo thing. Games are becoming increasingly more bloated, larger, and so you need more storage to facilitate that. Well, Nintendo has implemented a new SD card type Express that you need to be able to use, and those are incredibly expensive, relatively speaking, at the moment. And thus you have to have this investment on top of the fact that still, even with the additional storage, you're probably going to fill up your SD card pretty quickly, depending on what titles you buy. And even on that concept as well, certain titles do not necessarily need to be on a game key card. Like one of the launch titles was Bravely Default HD, which was pretty much just an up-resed 3DS port. There's really nothing new. It's just an up-res 3DS port of Bravely Default, which would have been exciting. It is exciting, but for the physical release aspect of it, why put it on a game key card? Which I think it's been uncovered and is kind of a known thing now that in the similar way that the SD card, the express SD cards are expensive, the manufacturer of the cartridges for Switch 2 were only presenting one size, which was like a 64 gigabyte equivalent, and it was very expensive for third-party developers. So that's why we're seeing most titles be on game key card. But there have been rumors that that same manufacturer is reevaluating potentially creating different size cartridges, which could hopefully fix the game key card issue moving forward into the future. So that's all of this was a very long-winded way to say, if we get actual physical games that are not just predominantly Nintendo titles, that would make me opt in. The other opt in is just console revision changes because, like you mentioned earlier, it's already kind of a system built for me. But I think a price cut potentially, and maybe like it just being on the newest revision or model would also be kind of nice as well. So I'll wait. Again, I've been just fine with my Switch 1 and probably will continue to be fine with my Switch 1 for a while. And eventually I'll pick up a Switch 2. But yeah, I think that's everything. Switch 2. Was there anything? I feel like I'm missing something.
I mean, there's
but anything else you
mentioned the Macross Switch game, but
oh yeah, well that was more so. I was gonna let you be free, but since you brought it up, you gotta answer for your sins. You said it looked like
it looks like
mobile game flop.
Yeah.
Slop.
I use the word slop pretty loosely, but man, $60 for that? $50?
It's $49.99
for just a bullet hell side scroller. Yeah, that's tough. I mentioned that I would have liked to see like a Transformers type game or Armored Core 3D action shooter, but I don't think that's happening anytime soon.
I mean, it might. We'll see. I think Macross, there's definitely a push, but I also feel like Harmony Gold is also up to their old shenanigans again. Even in the new quote-unquote new Macross game, they removed the original Macross characters because of Harmony Gold's contractual BS. And so it kind of dramatically changed the game a little bit. So I'm curious to see what the Western version of the game looks like. But other than that, like
characters?
Yes, so they removed. I didn't want to. Is it Lin May? Lin? What's her name?
Lin Min May. Yeah.
Lin Min May. Okay, Lin Min May. And then I'll be honest, I forget the main protagonist and his partner, who he picked over Lin May. Forever My Love was a good movie. It's just been forever, pun intended, that I've seen it, so I've forgotten the character's name. But yes, they were in the game as characters. Even Lin Min May was on the cover art of the box for the Japanese release, and they removed her as well. And the interesting thing about it is that the way that the game is structured, they were a specific storyline, and I believe there's some intersectionality between all of the different storylines of the different Macross series. But instead of just not bringing it over, they just completely ripped them from the game. So I'm curious how they facilitated that. It'll be interesting to see once more footage comes out, or once I get my hands on the game. But yeah, Harmony Gold, 5 years ago they were on that stuff, and it's still the same today. I was hoping back in the day,
to bring it back?
when we got all of those announcements,
We need to bring back the phrase F Harmony Gold.
F Harmony. Well, that was reserved for Aniplex, but yeah, no, we can replace Aniplex because at least they're giving us the content. They might be charging us an arm and a leg, and they'll probably factor in some tariff prices on their on their stuff too moving forward. But yeah, we'll start ending these podcasts with F Harmony Gold, But I think Macross is in a pretty good place, kind of similar to Common Rider, which I kind of briefly touched on earlier. We're starting to get more and more of that over here in the West, and so there's more exposure, even just in the niche markets, and so maybe hopefully we can start to see more new projects, for Macross that pick up steam. But no, I agree. I think an Ace Combat in the style of Macross. I even thought maybe I don't know if you're familiar with Zoids, but a Zoid style game would be pretty cool too. But yeah, that's Switch 2. We didn't really talk about the direct, not the indie direct, but the direct before that. But I think it's looking good for Nintendo.
That was actually all Square Enix HD.
Yeah, their
2D.
main direct.
Hey, this looks like Octopath Traveler. No, it's the game right after
it is Octopath Traveler.
is literally Octopath Traveler.
Yeah.
0.
Which again, I think when we talked about it, to me I kind of like it because again, to me it invokes a sense of like Square Enix returning to the Square times, like when they were releasing all of these games back on the SNES and even somewhat into the PlayStation era. And so HD 2D is sort of their gateway into that, and they're not just remastering and re-releasing titles, but they're making new titles in this new style, and a whole new generation of gamers get to experience like old school 2D JRPGs, but with a fresh coat of paint and new mechanics. And I don't know, it looks pretty cool. And I forget the name of that last one, but it genuinely looked pretty cool. It looked like
Octopath
a Zelda
Traveler?
game.
Oh.
In the HD 2.
I mean,
No, not
okay.
that one. The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. That one very much reminded me of A Link to the Past, and it looks pretty good. I believe there's a demo too. Yeah, there's a demo. I might check that out actually. But I like the HD 2D style. I've liked it since the original Octopath Traveler. Live Alive or Live Alive is probably one of my favorite games of all time. Obviously they're doing all of the OG Dragon Quest, so 1 through 3. There's just a lot of good time. Look, if they're doing all of this, I need Chrono Trigger. Square Enix, I need Chrono Trigger. You know the fans want Chrono Trigger. Like all of this other stuff is cool. Keep pumping out the Octopaths. Do the unique titles like the Adventures of Elliot, but like we need Chrono Trigger. We need it. But that direct was okay as well. There were some pretty good titles in there. Obviously, Katamari, the new Katamari Damacy title was announced. And we're getting Dragon Ball Sparking Zero on both Switch 1 and Switch 2. Fantastic.
That can't be a recipe for anything good.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna run really. I'm calling it now. I believe it releases in October.
Without looking like
if
potatoes.
We do a podcast in October, it's going to look good and play. Like it's obviously not going to look like its PC and PS5 counterparts, or it may be on Xbox too. I promise you, it's gonna look good. It's gonna look fantastic. Also, Pac-Man World 2. That's a nostalgia game, I think, for a lot of people who grew up in the GameCube, PlayStation 2 era. That is me. I am one of those people super looking forward to that as well. So glad that the first Pac-Man World remaster did so well that Bandai Namco thought it would be a good idea to release this one. And honestly, I think this is the one most people were wanting to be remastered in this way anyways. It's a very nostalgic game for a lot of people. But yeah, that's Switch 2. And so we can actually, I don't think there's, I guess before we talk about the horses for a little bit,
you've alerted
we
the
can
horse.
touch on some of the miscellaneous stuff. Let's talk about there's really not much to dig into here. Obviously, there's been a lot of regulation going on in the world. The UK has released some of their legislation, which pretty much forces AI ID verification across platforms, attempting to show, I'll say, any provocative content. There are the credit card companies that are pushing their own rules to restrict what you can purchase based off of certain guidelines. And I'll just give my personal take. Like, obviously, looking at the list of some of these things, like I was like, well yeah, okay. But obviously, the broader and more concerning piece of this is the fact that these companies are, or companies and governments are being able to dictate sort of what we can do, what we can buy, what we can consume, infringing on our privacy and our rights and freedoms. And so there is a large concern with that. But you gave me a little interesting update after the podcast, which was apparently the president of the United States.
What he basically signed is payment processors aren't allowed to block purchases, any legal purchases based on their own rules or ideologies. But, how they're going to enforce that, I have no idea. Those Visa and MasterCard could just, not follow that. Maybe challenge it and take it to court.
Yeah, I mean, I think as with every other executive order, I don't think there's a question of how it's going to be enforced. It's just a question of when, because pretty much everything else that this administration has kind of wanted to do, there's been a level, I think, of fear and sort of adherence just on the notion of retaliation. So it's just going to happen. I do not foresee the credit card companies putting up much of a fight on this. I think the most interesting thing about this particular thing to me, without even looking too deep into it, is that I feel like the president's base would actually be more in favor of what the credit card companies and vendors were proposing. So it's just kind of a very interesting situation to watch unfold. I would definitely say, if we're moving in that direction, then let's do the same thing for just rights on the internet, I guess, right? Like, I still think that there is a world where we work towards cleaning up some less than unsavory things that, people are uploading or putting out there, but I don't think the approach that I think the states and particularly UK are going about it is the way to do so. But that's just my take on that. But very interesting situation. Other than that, I do want to just redo this because, again, it was one of those organic moments that just happened in the Lost recording.
Man, that was such a good episode.
But I thought it was worth it. Happens. But we had a moment where we talked about Katsura. Who is Katsura? I'm just using his last name for the mystique, but he is a mangaka who has put out some of the most gorgeous looking manga for Shonen Jump and other companies ever, really, in my opinion. He was a close friend of Akira Toriyama, and some of his titles in his catalog were Shadow Lady, Zetman, Video Girl Eye, Ys, Bunny and
Tiger and Bunny.
Gosh, I can't remember this. Tiger and Bunny. I feel like my brain wanted to say, what's the one that was the messed up one where he adopted the girl and it was this very cute series and then had a time skip.
Oh,
that Usagi drop.
Drop. Yeah. I read that.
I feel like
I read that, the whole thing recently.
Of course you read that.
But it's not. No, it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
If you say so, man. If you say so. But yeah, Masakazu Katsura, he is a legend of the industry. I wish he would come out with something else. I will say I do prefer his earlier style. His later style gets a little too much into the uncanny valley because it becomes a lot more just directly this realistic style. But during his earlier works, he still has the more cartoony sort of look. And I would also say his character designs lean into very similar as well. If you've seen one of his works, you've seen them all. You had pointed out to me that he did the character design for Astral Chain. And as soon as you said that, I could remember the cover art for that title in my head, and I could see his artwork. It looks so similar. If you've seen DNA Squared, which is an OVA and a TV series of his manga of the same name, and then look at maybe like Video Girl Eye, or you look at Shadow Lady, just again such similar sort of characters. But no, he's a really good artist. I just want to give props. Really nothing to add there. Just go check out some of his works. Let's talk about horses.
The global sensation, Uma Musume, Pretty Derby. You know, if you don't know what that is and you've been living under a rock, it's where...
Or you're a normal person.
Hey, you gotta be cultured. It's where it appeals to the base human instinct of racing and gambling, and the cherry on top is that they've turned it into anime girls and has made Cygames multi-billion US dollars over the past 4 years now. So do you have any questions before we get into it?
Well, how is this seemingly innocuous title that technically has existed for a while? Our first Ichi Niche podcast back in 2022, this was an anime at the time. The mobile game has come later after a lot of delays. But what are your thoughts on why this title has gotten so popular?
I mean, it's like I said, it appeals to the base human instinct of racing and gambling and anime girls. But for me, well, let me start with the series first. It's just a really well-written series with good, or decent to good to amazing animation, soundtrack, and character writing. And in the game, it's the same, like high-quality models. They've given each character their own whole campaign. Even on the global release, we just have one scenario out right now. And then each Uma Musume that you have has their own unique run, or even with different routes depending on how you perform. And the basis for this world is they are spirits of real life horses that have inspired the personality and history of horse girls born into the Uma Musume world. So a lot of it is based on the Japanese Racing Association, the JRA, and in universe they call it the URA, the Uma Musume Racing Association. And these girls attend an academy where you can ignore all the space and time void, since in real life a lot of these horses did not exist at the same time as each other. It ranges from like the 70s to current day. But they all want to just run in the main races, prestigious races. But I don't want to spoil too much because you need to do your homework and watch the anime.
Yes. Fortunately, unfortunately, after the last episode, we decided that I was going to watch it because you made the bold claim this is one of the best sports series ever. And so the next true podcast, we're going to do a ranking. We're gonna discuss what I watched and how I felt after watching it, and then we're going to see if it actually holds up to sports titles, some of the greatest sports anime titles.
I did mention that.
But yeah,
if you wanted to minimize the amount of content you're watching, then you could skip to season 2. Season 1 would help, but I wouldn't say it's mandatory. And then after season 2, you can watch the 2 OVAs.
Okay. Well, yeah, that was my original play. Actually, I think you put it in the chat like earlier today, or maybe that was yesterday. You're like 2 seasons and two OVA. Like when I sign up for 2 seasons, technically it's 1 season, and if I like it, then I'll watch the other season. But it was
I mean, if you if you had to watch one season, the OVA, then season 2
is season 2. Yeah, I probably should actually go ahead and opt into Crunchyroll now, just so I can. I mean, I could always go torrent it, but I should, as they say, what's it? Support the official release. So, but yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about some of the talent connected to. Obviously, we know it's Psy Games, and Psy Games is already pretty popular for all of the different gacha franchises that they run. But you've mentioned the composers who worked on this as well.
Oh, yes. Many, well, it's probably due to the popularity that Psy Games can afford all of these amazing composers, but no, they've notably worked on series like Ace Combat, Halo, Tekken, Street Fighter, Final Fantasy, and so many games with amazing soundtracks, and the sheer variety that they come up with just for this Horse Girls game is incredible.
Yeah, I was when you said the list of titles they worked on. Now, obviously you gave me some other similar titles, but some of those initial titles, I was like, there's some dissonance, there's some cognitive.
I mean, they've also worked on stuff like rhythm games for Konami, like Beatmania, and of other mobile gacha games like Idol Master.
I don't think I have too many questions. I mean, honestly, it's still, I know you talked about it a little bit, but it still just sort of blows my mind how popular this has gotten. Like, I think after we spoke a little bit, you also sent me some additional follow-up content as well of the fans. I think it was in a horse race in Thailand. A bunch of cosplayers for it showed up and actually raced on the track for a little bit, which I was like, that's a thing. There was the
I think in Indonesia,
one of the horses.
They had one of their big races in Indonesia had a lot of viewers suddenly tune in, lots of new fans coming to watch. But yes,
which is crazy. I mean, it's not necessarily
the day that we recorded the Lost episode. That morning or probably afternoon in Japan, but one of the inspirations for one of the Horse Girls, Grass Wonder, has passed away after 30 years.
R.I.P. How long do horses live? I didn't ask this last time.
Is the expected, lifespan. Some fans worried about another horse coming up on 30. Haru Urara, a household name for having a lot of fans and never winning any races during her career. She's currently 29.
A true underdog goat.
Hopefully the horse 2,000 kilograms of grass donated to her will keep her going.
That or it'll kill her. Just all that grass at once.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, they just ration it out. I think they even give the other horses on the farm some.
See, no, that grass is for that horse specifically. You were supposed to just take that grass each time each time they got the dono, just throw another bale at the horse and just let it eat. Just start chucking it. Sorry, but no, that's yeah, I think that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was about to touch on that point because to me that's just really cool to see people come together to do that for the horses. And
I like that the horses have no idea where all this is coming from. They're just chilling.
Yeah, they're just chilling. Like, they're like, yeah, I used to run, now I eat. Eggs, more grass. I mean, obviously they have their own life with their caretakers, and it's probably a really, really good life, and they're taken care of and all that stuff. But yeah, it's sweet, and I wish humanity was always this sweet, but that's just simply not the world we live in, and that is what it is. But no, I mean, for all the weirdness for me personally of what Uma Musume has been and how it's sort of taken the world by storm, I do think it's very cool to see a project like this. Well, there's two feelings. The initial feeling is it's cool to see how something like this has exploded and it's building communities. It's it's extending outside of its own sort of content and also allowing people to potentially, start engaging in other things that are like horse racing or maybe even looking into horses and things of that nature, right? And so that's really cool. And then there's the skeptic part of my brain, which is like, but this is what they wanted. They wanted all of you people to get hooked on this waifu bait horse adjacent stuff. Yes, obviously there's passion and there's historical linking, and they were careful with all the things. The OST is actually pretty good because you sent me some of the titles, but you it's still a gotcha game. You're still scummy. You can't get away from me. And technically speaking, we're transitioning people into gambling if you really think about it, because that's what horse racing is. But I digress. Ultimately,
It's pretty.
it is cool.
Well, it's not as generous as some of the gacha I play, but it's pretty. It's pretty up there. And recently, since a global release is 4 years behind, and they want to do a catch up to the Japanese server eventually, they have been just dumping free currency on us, just every randomly now and then.
On a scale of Shadowverse to Master Duel, how good would you say the model is?
I don't know Shadow versus model, but I hear it's pretty bad.
Okay, what's a bad gotcha?
Fate Grand Order.
That's I don't even play that game, and I know that one's got to be garbage because they know they can milk y'all for. Do you play
No.
Grand Order?
I think,
Okay.
but they were the ones that I think they were the ones that sparked the revealing percentages to players because it was so bad. It was maybe either that or one of probably a Honkai Impact Third thing. I'm not sure which one was first, but yeah.
Yeah, this is somewhat of a side tangent, but it's not going to be a tangent, just a statement. I really hope at some point we eventually get out of the era of gotcha and live service games, because I just feel like there's such a blight on creativity. I would just love for something like even like a Uma Musume, right, to just be a game that is charged a price. Obviously, I understand like this is money and people are gonna work towards the thing that makes them money. But it'd be so sweet if it was just a game. You pay the price. Maybe it has DLC, all right? And it has its own gotcha. I mean, I think Xenoblade 2 is a great example of a game with that is you buy it once and that's it, and it has a full gotcha system, and you can just enjoy your gotcha system in this full world. But I digress. Obviously, other people don't have issues with it as much as I do, so I can just not play the games. But I feel like constraining things into these live service style games, I feel really limit the impact to a certain degree of what these companies can put out. I think Gacha does have a formula that kind of works though, and only that way that Gacha could. But I think the last thing I want to say on Uma Musume is just again my disappointment that the anime does not have the mobile game powers or the
I mean, I know I said
little-
in the last episode that don't do that, but there's some scenes that are in there that are pretty close.
So you lied to me. I guess you wanted me to be excited.
I mean, it's all mental. It's not. They're not shooting lasers out the eyes.
Have you ever? Wait, do they do that in the game though?
Some do. Well, not
That's crazy.
in the race. There's skill card animations and all that. I think one on the one like
I
just
get you.
pulls out a sniper out of thin air. I mean, you've seen
Okay.
some the lightning
question.
and the magic circles.
I've seen some of it, yeah. But my question: have you ever seen Kuroko no Basket?
Some clips.
Okay. So when you say it's like mental powers, is it on that type of degree? Technically, Kuroko no Basket is not powers; it's just pure skill. Those boys are talented, but like obviously, they pretty much have anime attacks on the court. Is this what we're dealing
I
with
mean, like, I guess you could.
in Uma Musume?
I guess you could call it that. It's not as
Okay.
crazy because it's a very grounded series.
Yeah, the
Like
series
if
with
you can ignore
humanoid.
the ears and the tail, it's just a running anime sprinting.
I can't ignore the ears and the tails because now I know the back history of the fact that they're technically still humans, but they're a weird mutagen that can come from regular humans in this universe
Oh yeah.
and are only female. Because, you know, that has to be, you have to put that stamp on there. You can't have any
Oh yeah.
male
The stamp says
horse
yes, you can mate with the
humans.
horses.
And you can, yeah.
No. I shouldn't say it like that. Yes, you can mate with the Uma Musume. I don't like saying horses.
I mean,
See.
the same. You're just saying horse girl.
No.
On the DL?
No. It's not the same.
Uh,
See, in their universe, horses don't exist. Only the Uma Musume exists. That they receive their names and inspirations from.
there's some bad jokes I want to make, and I'm holding in my. This is why you said don't dig into it too deep. I understand. It's fine. We'll like in that original episode 3 years ago. I will just ignore that. I won't even look at them as horse girls. I will just think of them as track.
See,
track
in that
stars.
cold open, I think you were thinking of something else. You were thinking like half horse, probably.
But they are kind of like. I mean, they're technically.
it's literally
they're technically not.
It's just the ear and tail, and with some pretty superhuman power, stamina and strength.
I guess, man. I guess. But anyways, we'll see. But we'll see if in the next podcast if Uma Musume is even in the same league as like Run with the Wind or even a Suzuka. Well, Suzuka's kind of a different type of I feel like Suzuka's more of a drama romance title than than actually focusing on the sport. So never mind. But yeah, Run with the Wind is definitely the direct competition. So we will see.
It's funny you say
All right.
Suzuka because that's one pretty famous horse named Silent
Is it?
Suzuka.
Silent Suzuka.
She's in the first season.
I mean, I'd imagine Suzuka's a fairly popular name. I feel like I've seen many of those. But yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up? I think we're pretty much at the end.
I'm just sad that we don't have the whole last episode.
It's okay.
It's a good episode.
That was a good episode, but this wasn't a bad episode or a bad retake, and it's slightly different. It's cool to see how we took some of the old stuff we talked about and were able to summarize it and condense it and add some new stuff and still come out probably 30 minutes less. But yeah. No, I guess next podcast we will be talking about Uma Musume and sports anime. So look forward to that. We appreciate you listening if you have made it this far, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.